Hey everybody, we're back. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pull this part off this plate, and we're gonna re-prepare the plate for printing another part. So I'm gonna see how to do this with one hand. I'm gonna get this little scraper thing under there. And we'll get this thing fried up a little bit. It just comes right off. So here's my part. You can see how my brim should have continued down the whole length of that edge right there, and that did not occur. So we're going to reprint that same file, and I'm going to see right away by it starts to print the brim first. I'll be able to know right away if we really got it flat or not. These build plates, like a lot of different ways to get them clean. We got a shop sink right here that I'm not really concerned about clogging up, so I can run this build plate under the sink for a few seconds. It works better if you go hot. And you'll see it's actually starting to eat the glue away, just the kind of like scour, like the water is basically just like scouring the glue off without me even rubbing it. And then I'll let it do that for a sec. See, actually it's all coming off. Sometimes you got to give it a little bit of, you got to rub it with your thumb a little bit or something like that. But like you can see, it'll just scour really the whole pad. So, okay, so I got this thing, get all the glue off like that. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to get me a paper towel and dry the excess water that's just like ridiculously all over it. Just getting the big drops, like big water. Getting that big water. All right, and then basically once I got like pretty much most of the excess water off it, but it's obviously still wet, I actually hold it by the corner like this and I swing it. Don't do this at home, kids. But, if you do this without letting go of it, this is a pretty good method of like slinging the excess water to one edge into kind of like little droplets. I'm still just swinging it off screen. So you can see how it basically like made a lot of the wetness kind of like recongeal into solid droplets that I can wipe with a paper towel now. And another option, if you don't feel like doing all this level of work to it, you can just get this out of the sink, wipe it down pretty good with a paper towel, and leave it sitting on the counter for about an hour. And it generally, they pretty much dry on their own. Even on this one, like, see, I dried the center of the board, but like in here, in the seam, there's still some moisture. There's still some little residual moisture in that little crack or that little crack. And like, long story short, like I'm not like extremely concerned with that. I don't want like any standing water in there that's obviously like there's a little puddle. But if I turn the light just right and I see like just a tiny little bit of moisture in that crack, I basically don't care. Inside of the printer is going to be getting hot, so as long as it's not enough moisture to like affect the temperature of the environment inside the case, it's basically like negligible. Okay, so pretty much got this dried off. It's, let's say like 90% or 95% dry. I'm gonna pop this back in here. All right. And what I want to do before every big print, I want to level. So we're going to level it. It just takes a second to level, and it's the kind of thing like I was talking in the last video. If you say, I probably don't need to level it, I'm just going to go ahead and print this print. It was level, yesterday when I printed something, so it's probably still level. Man, don't do that. Don't say that. Because, I'm going to send this print to print. I'm going to send this part to print right now. And if the print fails, it's several, I think it's a 4.5 hour print. So like, I'm sending something to the printer that it's going to take the printer 4.5 hours to realize that it's actually, the part is not usable or, it's dimensionally flawed. Okay, so like right there, it was telling me to turn this little knob, and then I reached to turn the knob, and before I even touched it, it said okay. So what that means is like the knob is like right on the edge of where it's supposed to be or not supposed to be. So even though it's not telling me to do that, I'm actually going to give it a tiny, 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 tiny little bump in that direction. The direction it was telling me to turn it, because basically where it's sitting is right on the threshold of where it needs to be. So I just gave it a little bump. Now look, it's actually telling me to give a little more. So that was good. Let's give it a little more. Let's give it a little smooch at a time. Verify. It's gonna verify. And y'all will see, like, the adjustment that I'm making here, it's like a tiny, tiny adjustment. Like, I don't know, maybe, okay, now it's saying go back the other way. Verify. I basically am leveling the printer before every single print. Now, when that might not be the case is if I'm printing something that's kind of like not very critical. Like if I'm printing some kind of little tchotchke to sit on my desk and just be a cute, whatever, like a action figure or something like that. And if, you know, if the print itself is only going to take, I don't know, 30 minutes or something like that, well then like there's not much investment of time or energy if the part fails. I feel a little more comfortable taking the gamble of like, you know, it's probably level. You know, I wouldn't worry about it. But something like this that's going to take hours and hours, and just something as minor as this little knob being not in exactly the right place can have a pretty drastic effect. So we're going to do that. Takes a second. Going to verify that side. Now we're going to go over to the other side. Verifying. So let's turn left a little bit. Verify. It'll measure again. All right, so that took me like 5 minutes. Is it a pain in the butt to do that multiple times a day on a machine every time you change parts? Like, it's kind of a pain in the butt. It's kind of tedious, but you know, at the end of that 6-hour print, whenever you have like some kind of a failed or a flaw in your print that you could have fixed by spending 5 extra minutes leveling the board, it's a self-correcting error. You pretty quickly will develop a good sense of like, I better go ahead and do this even though it's probably not necessary. Okay, so taking this, I use the little purple glue, disappearing glue, or what's it called? Disappearing purple glue stick. It's some of this stuff, just like you used in elementary school. And I'm using this because I want my first layer of plastic to adhere really reliably to the glass. There is a couple other different solutions for this problem. There's some companies that sell tape called Build Tape or something like that. I think Dremel actually sells a product like that. This is a lot cheaper, and you know, it's ultimately, now does it add some hassle because I got to clean off the build plate every time? It's like, yes, but even if you're using tape, you got to clean off the build plate every time, and I feel like tape gives a lot more room for like residue getting left behind, or like you tear it off and little torn bits are there, and this way, you know, the water is going to just remove this stuff really, really reliably every time. So that's what we do basically. I just got a nice even purple coat on here, and let me tell you, getting the coat evenly on there is a challenge in itself. It is a skill that you kind of develop over time. I'm still not even necessarily the best at it, but that's kind of what you want, is just a nice, pretty even coat all over, kind of like the same thickness. I don't got like more glue at the back back or less glue at the front or anything. I'm just pretty much trying to like apply even pressure the entire time as I'm rubbing it back and forth across the board, and is what we end up with. So that's in there now. Let's get this USB drive and let's get some of these files. Okay, the one I printed earlier was the front left bottom. Let's print that same one again. And what I should be able to see pretty quick, all right, I might have already put it in there. Replace the file in this destination. Okay, let me look in there and see. Okay, I already put all the V2s in here. So bottom left, or back left, back right, front left bottom, front left top, front right bottom, front right top. I'm gonna eject us. And jerk this USB drive. It's going on the front of this machine. And we're gonna go build it always tells me that for this USB drive, but it still works. So I don't know why it's saying that. Flash drive. And we're going down to the one that says helmet FLB. It's this one. Front left bottom V2. It's telling me 2 hours and 55 minutes, which is unusual because this print took 4.5 hours this morning. I'm curious now if the rotation of this part and getting it flat on the board, I'm wondering if that's the only thing that we adjusted whenever we went back in Slicer. But I'll check that momentarily and make sure. But yeah, this seems to have just the modification of kind of moving where the part was on the board and the rotation of it to get it like more flat. It seems to have shaved off an hour and a half of printing time, which is unusual. So like I said, I'll verify that here in a second and make sure if I didn't change something else that I didn't intend to change. So we're printing that, copying the file. As soon as it gets done saying copy file, like as soon as it goes to this screen, you can pull the USB drive out. It's gonna go ahead and finish printing. And while I have y'all here, why don't we just sit down and make sure whether anything else got changed that I didn't intend to change. So this is the helmet, front left bottom V2. Let's look at that. Okay. See, sometimes when I open these Slicer files, it acts like it doesn't remember where the part was. But when I'm looking at this part, it is flat. It is like adhered to the, or at least visually it appears to be flat. It just seems like it didn't save the physical location of it on the board, but it looks like all the rotation has been retained. Let me tip it up a little bit. Okay, let's look at some of this stuff. We got layer height, 0.3, wall thickness, 0.8 millimeter, wall line count, 2. Okay, I think I had that set higher on the original. Oh yeah, some stuff has changed here. So infill density is 20%. Okay, so this is just another, it's a recurring theme, is like pump your brakes and check everything again. Even check the stuff that you think you already checked and you don't need to check again, because a lot of times this is the kind of stuff you run into where like, you know, I didn't change this number. It could be that when I opened the Slicer up, this was like the default number, so it just went back there. What's confusing about that, or it seems like maybe that's not the case, is because it did save my brim, my 13 millimeter brim. So let's do this. This thing is getting ready to print, all right? What I could do I could sit here and let it start printing and watch where it's drawing the brim, and I could at least know from that where, if we actually got our part flat. However, I really was wanting the infill to be 100% on these because it makes a solid part, not with any gaps in the middle. It's not hollow at all. I think we may modify these again. I know that y'all are gonna be like, oh my God. Like this ultimately, it's the whole thing is like, once you get it just right, it's just right. And you know, I don't know, let's do this. I'm about to have to leave and go home. Let's let this one run on 20% infill and we'll just see what we learn from it. We'll see if the part prints dimensionally accurate, if it's like flat like it's supposed to be. If it is, if it adheres to the build plate fully throughout the whole length of its geometry, and that part works out fine, you know, we always could come in here and modify this and reprint it at 100% infill to get it totally solid. And really, you know, really, it would probably be fine to print this part with 20% infill. It's basically not a structural part. It's like, this whole thing is essentially like cosmetic. It's going to be held together by glue, and it's not really going to have any stress put on it. It's not going to be, it's not like a handle on something. It's not like a handle on something heavy that's going to be seeing a lot of stress. So we'll see. We might print all the helmet parts at 20% and then just see what kind of outcome we get there. So the whole thing, you know, everything here, manufacturing, it's all, it's kind of two sides of it. There's the engineering side, which is where like you understand all the math that you can show on paper why this part has to be at least 50% infill, or whatever thing you're trying to prove or determine. Like the engineering side is like all the math where you show the formula that explains to you why you need whatever infill percentage you need there. I don't really have like a math engineering background, so like everything I do is pretty much like R&D, or research and development, trial and error, whatever kind of phrase you prefer. So like I might print one of these at 20% infill, and then I might print one of these at 100% infill, and I might just do some informal testing, you know, trying to flex the part this way, flex the part that way, see how much muscles it takes me to bend it to 45 degrees or whatever. You know, obviously for any kind of part, the kind of tests that you're going to apply to it are going to vary. But like on a part like this, you know, maybe you could, you know, kind of see how it flexes, see if the 20% infill one, how much more flimsy is it than the 100% infill one. Surely it's going to be somewhat more flimsy, but is it like a deal breaker, or is it just like a little more flimsy? So, you know, that's basically R&D, is like ultimately, it's hard to know exactly what the outcome is going to be until you're holding the outcome in your hand and evaluating the experience of it authentically. So that's kind of what I do around here. I'll, you know, oh yeah, look at that. So it is printing the whole brim correctly this time, which is making me feel good. We'll give this a shot. We're going to do the 20% infill. This is going to be a 3-hour print. If all my slicers have been reduced from 100% infill to 20, it's going to shorten the printing time on a lot of these parts, which is probably a good idea anyway. I have a tendency to like over-engineer or like over-reinforce everything I do. So I would rather use 100% infill because I can't set it to 101% infill, but like I said, a lot of times I tend to be on the excessive side of that kind of thing. So long story short, we got this part printing again. It does look like now it's laying the brim everywhere it's supposed to. It's kind of a funny shape, but whatever. So basically this is what we're cooking on. I'll be back in the morning and do an update on how that came out and what we're doing next. Thanks everybody.